The academy expelled Darian Vale in front of every noble student. His name was erased from the ranking board, his uniform was burned at the gate, and the girl he had protected for 3 years pointed at him and said he cheated. The courtyard of Aurelian Academy went silent. Then the laughter began. 1,000 young mages watched from white marble stairs as Darian stood beneath the execution bell, his hands bound with silver wire. Above him, the ranking board glowed with every student's name. First rank, Cassian Vare. Second rank, Illyra Morn. Third rank, Seraph Holt. At the very bottom, where Darian's name had always lived, the letters cracked apart and vanished. Failure. Expelled. Forbidden from all royal examinations. Dean Malrek lifted Darian's black academy coat with 2 fingers, as if even touching it offended him. "Darian Vale," the dean said, "you entered this academy by scholarship, wasted its resources, then used illegal spellwork to injure Lord Cassian during the final trial." Cassian stood beside the dean with one arm wrapped in bandages. He looked wounded. He looked noble. He looked like a liar. Darian raised his head. "I did not attack him." The dean looked bored. 3 witnesses disagree. Darian turned to Illyra. Her blue uniform was spotless. Her silver hair was tied with a ribbon. Darian had bought her after selling his winter boots. She would not meet his eyes. "Illyra," he said quietly, "tell them what happened." Her fingers trembled. Then she pointed at him. "He cheated," she whispered. "I saw the black spell circle under his hand." The words hit harder than the silver wire around his wrists. Darian had protected her in the trial maze. He had taken a beast strike meant for her. He had carried her out while Cassian hid behind a barrier, and now she was saving herself with his life. Cassian smiled. The dean dropped Darian's coat into an iron bowl. A red flame swallowed it. The students cheered. Darian watched the fabric burn and felt something colder than anger settle inside him. For 12 years, he had believed Aurelian Academy was the only door out of poverty. He had studied until his eyes bled, practiced until his fingers split, endured nobles calling him gutter-born, dead mana, charity rat, all because one day, if he graduated, his little sister Nera would never sleep hungry again. Then the dean snapped his fingers. The silver wire fell from Darian's wrists. "Leave before sunset," Malrek said. "If you return, the guards may cut out your spell core." Darian looked at the burned ashes of his uniform, then at Illyra, then at Cassian. He did not beg. That disappointed them most. Night came with rain. Darian left through the eastern gate carrying one torn bag, one cracked spellbook, and 16 copper coins behind him. The academy shone with golden windows and celebration music. The final trial feast had begun. Cassian would be honored. Illyra would be praised for her honesty. Dean Malrek would tell donors that corruption had been removed. Darian walked down the hill until the academy lights blurred behind rain. Then his legs gave out near the old training forest. For the first time that day, he laughed. Not because anything was funny, because if he stopped laughing, He might crawl back and beg them to admit he had existed. A voice spoke from the darkness. Finally, Darian froze. The trees ahead bent without wind. Beyond them stood a tower he had seen only in old drawings. Black stone, no windows, no door. Rising where no building had stood a moment before. The forbidden tower, Noxpire. Every academy child knew the warning. If the Noxpire opens, do not enter. If it speaks, do not answer. If it knows your name, run before you remember why it was sealed. The tower should have been myth. It should have been buried under 300 years of royal law, but its black walls gleamed in the rain, and across the stone, pale runes opened like eyes. Darian stepped back. The tower whispered again. Darian Vale, expelled, erased, unclaimed. His cracked spellbook flew from his bag and opened in the mud. Every page turned black. Then white letters appeared. Failure accepted. Inheritance available. Enter and be rewritten. Darian looked back at the academy. No one was coming. No family name. No master. No future. Only a tower that wanted the thing everyone else had thrown away. He wiped rain from his face. If this is a trap, he said, you chose a man with nothing left to steal. A door appeared in the tower. Darian entered. Inside the Noxpire, gravity had opinions. The floor curved into walls. Stairs climbed downward into the ceiling. Broken mirrors floated in the air, each one reflecting a different version of Darian. One as a child stealing bread, one as a student sleeping over books, one kneeling before Cassian's false testimony, one dead, with a spell core cut from his chest. At the center of the chamber stood 9 empty chairs. On each chair rested a black mask. The masks turned toward him. A woman's voice came from the first. Another discarded student. A man's voice came from the second. This one is thin. A child's voice came from the third. This one is angry. Darian lifted a broken practice wand from his bag. I am also tired. The masks laughed. The 9th mask did not. It floated from its chair and stopped before his face. Why were you expelled? I was framed. No, the mask said. That is what happened. Why were you expelled? Darian's jaw tightened. Because I was poor. Deeper. Because Cassian feared being second. Deeper. Darian looked at the mirrors. Because the academy only valued magic it could rank. Because Elira chose safety over truth. Because every noble in that courtyard needed one failure beneath them so they could feel tall, he whispered. Because I was useful as long as I stayed weak. The 9th mask smiled without a mouth. Correct. The floor vanished. Darian fell into darkness. He landed in a library made of bones and ink. Books hung from chains. Spells crawled across the shelves like insects. At the far end stood a black board with one sentence written across it. All magic leaves a corpse. The 9th mask appeared beside him. The academy teaches living magic, it said. Fire, water, wind, metal, illusion, healing, force. Clean names for clean families. Darian touched a floating page. It showed a spell circle half broken. The kind teachers threw away when students failed, the mask continued. But every failed spell leaves remains. Every broken oath leaves a pattern. Every erased name leaves a shadow. The Noxpire teaches the magic of what survives rejection. Darian looked at his hands. My mana is dead. No, the mask said. Your mana does not obey living spells. The blackboard cracked. A new sentence appeared. Videscript awakened. Darian felt something open behind his ribs. Not warm, not bright. A hollow space filled with silent letters. The first letter crawled into his palm. He gasped as pain cut across his skin. The letter was black, sharp, and alive. Write, the mask commanded. With what they left you. Darian remembered the ranking board erasing his name, the burn of his uniform. Ilira's trembling finger, Cassian's smile. He pressed his palm against the floor. A black spell circle spread from his hand, not smooth like academy magic, jagged, hungry, honest. From the shadows rose the remains of every spell he had failed in class. Broken sparks, dead shields, miscursed blades, mistakes. They gathered around him like soldiers. The ninth mask whispered, Aurelian called you failure. The Noxpire calls you archive. For 30 nights, Darian trained inside the tower. Outside, only one night passed. He learned to read broken spells, to pull power from failed circles, to cut magic by writing its ending first, to summon shadow copies of spells that had once humiliated him. Every lesson cost blood. The Noxpire did not believe in gentle education. The masks taught with blades, traps, lies, and memory. On the 10th night, Darian fought a mirror of Cassian that knew every spell Cassian had stolen from tutors. On the 17th, he faced Illyra's voice, begging for forgiveness. He almost listened. The tower punished him by carving her accusation across his arm. He did not make that mistake again. On the 30th night, the 9th mask brought him to the highest chamber. A single black crown floated above an empty desk. The Academy's winter duel begins at dawn, the mask said. Cassian will be named student champion. Malrek will announce your crimes before the royal inspectors. Illyra will receive a scholarship paid with your silence. Darian stared at the crown. And you want me to stop them? No, the mask said. We want you to choose what kind of ruin you become. At dawn, Aurelian Academy gathered in the grand arena. Nobles filled the balconies, or royal inspectors sat beneath blue banners. Dean Malrek stood proudly beside Cassian, whose bandaged arm was now perfectly healed. Illyra stood behind them, pale and silent. The ranking board shone above the arena. Cassian, there, first rank. Then every torch went black. A cold wind passed through the marble seats. The arena gate opened. Darian walked in wearing a long black coat stitched with moving letters. The crowd gasped. Dean Malrek's face twisted. Guards! The guards moved. Darian raised 2 fingers, every spell circle carved into their armor cracked apart. Their weapons fell uselessly to the sand. Cassian stepped forward, smiling too hard. You should have stayed erased. Darian looked at the ranking board. so should your lies. He pressed his palm to the ground. Wide script spread beneath the arena, black lines running through marble like veins. The board flickered. Then the final trial memory appeared above it. Not illusion. Akiva the maze, the beast, Illyra falling, Darian saving her, Cassian hiding behind a barrier, then Cassian cutting his own arm and placing Darian's broken practice wand beside the blood. The arena fell silent. Illyra covered her mouth. Dean Malrek reached for the board controls. Darian wrote one letter in the air stop. Malrek's hand froze inches from the switch. Cassian's smile disappeared. "You think truth saves you," he hissed. "No," Darian said. "Truth just makes revenge cleaner." Cassian attacked first. Fire spears filled the arena. Darian opened his hand. The failed sparks that teachers once mocked rose around him and swallowed the flames. Cassian summoned a golden blade. Darian wrote its ending before it landed. The blade shattered. Cassian screamed and cast forbidden force magic, strong enough to crack the arena wall. Darian let it hit him. Smoke covered the sand. Illyra shouted his name. When the smoke cleared, Darian stood untouched behind a shield made from every protection spell he had failed during first year. The crowd saw it now. Not dead magic. Rejected magic. Darian stepped forward. Cassian stepped back. For the first time, the Academy's brightest noble looked exactly like what he was. A boy who had never lost without blaming someone else. Darian lifted his hand. Black letters wrapped around Cassian's throat, wrists, and spell core. Cassian fell to his knees. "Don't," he whispered. The crowd waited for blood. Darian wanted to give it to them. Then he looked at Illyra. She was crying now. Too late, always too late. He remembered what the tower asked. What kind of ruin would he become? Darian lowered his hand. Cassian's magic broke. Not forever, just enough that he would have to rebuild it honestly. That was worse for him. Darian turned to Dean Malrek. "Your turn." Malrek tried to run. The royal inspectors seized him first. When Darian opened the dean's hidden archive, the arena saw everything. Sold scholarship seats, stolen spell cores, poor students expelled so noble failures could rise, names erased from the ranking board for money. Darian's was not the first, only the first to return. By sunset, Dean Malrek was in chains. Cassian's title was stripped. Illyra approached Darian at the gate with shaking hands. "I was afraid," she said. "I know. I wanted to survive. So did I." She flinched. "Can you forgive me?" Darian looked at the academy behind her, then at the black tower waiting beyond the forest, visible only to him. "No," he said, "but you can tell the truth next time before someone dies for it." He walked past her. The royal inspectors offered to restore his student rank. Darian refused. Aurelian Academy had taught him what people worshipped. When power wore a clean uniform, the Noxspire had taught him what waited after the uniform burned. That night, the forbidden tower opened again. The 9 masks waited inside. The black crown still floated above the desk. "You showed restraint," the 9th mask said. "Disappointed." curious. Darian touched the crown. It was cold enough to hurt. Beneath the tower, something enormous shifted. The floor trembled. A voice deeper than the masks rose from below. First archive waking. The masks turned silent. For the first time, they looked afraid. Darian looked down as a staircase appeared where no staircase had been. Far beneath the tower, hundreds of erased names began whispering his. He had returned to the academy and taken back his truth. But truth was only the first door. The Noxpire had chosen him. Now Darian was beginning to understand why. Some failures were not mistakes. Some were keys. And somewhere beneath the Forbidden Tower, the oldest failure in history had just heard his name. And in that instant, Darian understood the joke of power. The academy had not thrown him away because he was worthless. It had thrown him away because it had no language for what he was.